Sussexes have signed this new agreement with Netflix. Is it a good deal? Do we believe this deal? Is it more of an art of the spin? Does everyone save face in this deal?
It's a retainer in case they decide to accidentally do something entertaining again. And
Accidentally.
so there's no commitment.
As we've said, there's some hit and misses there, and certainly a lot of misses.
They must be looking at Harry and thinking, well, you're not actually providing any great content.
It's a bit of a missed opportunity for Harry to change the narrative a little bit as well. I think it's disappointing that he's not more front and centre.
I think a complete rebrand is in order.
Andrew, I've seen him driving around. He often looks a bit like Toad of Toad Hall. He's whizzing around. Welcome to Royal Exclusive, where this week Meghan and Harry have signed a new agreement with Netflix, but is it really a good deal for the Sussexes? We get a taste of what to expect in the future with teasers for season 2 of Meghan's much-derided cookery show. Meanwhile, the working royals interrupt their summer break to mark the 80th anniversary of World War II as Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, continues to take a front seat. Joining me in the studio this week, I'm pleased to welcome broadcaster and journalist Esther Krakue and news.com.au's royal reporter Bronte Coy. Right, Bronte, Esther, right. Now, we know that Donald Trump professes the art of the deal. And we remember in the Brexit negotiations, no deal is better than a bad deal.
Yeah.
Sussexes have signed this new agreement with Netflix. Is it a good deal? Do we believe this deal? Is it more of an art of the spin? Does everyone save face in this deal?
I think everyone has saved face. I think this is the ideal outcome for both parties. We've talked about what was going to be next for Harry and Meghan in their Netflix business arm for a long time now, because we knew that this 5-year deal was going to expire this year. What was going to be the ideal outcome? Okay, they're not going to sign a deal anything like the one that was signed in 2020 because they don't really exist anymore. The landscape has changed completely for TV, but streaming services in particular. And so it did seem likely that there would either be a downgraded deal or an expiration of the deal. Now, the fact that both parties can say we've reached a new agreement, it was never going to be what it was before, but it is a new agreement, and I think that an argument could be made on either side that it's a PR win because the deal wasn't cancelled, as had been speculated for some time. It's a first look deal. The Obamas are on a very similar one, so they're sort of in, I guess, company that they would be happy with in that regard. I think that it also means that Netflix is able to, and this is crucially after what we've seen as their output, other than the Harry and Meghan series, they really fail. And with Love Meghan, we'll give that's going to find its feet, and we'll see with season 2. But the rest of their output hasn't really set the world on fire, and this gives Netflix the opportunity now to say that they've got the deal with them, but they also have the opportunity to turn down pitches if they don't suit what they want to put out there.
That's exactly it. There's no commitment.
Yeah, that's it. It's a retainer. It's a retainer in case they decide to accidentally do something entertaining again. And
accidentally.
That's exactly. That's basically it. So there's no commitment. They've put no money behind this. It's basically the right of first refusal. So if they come up with something that doesn't have to do with their whole kind of sermonizing about how to save the world, then Netflix might be like, yes. Really, to be brutally honest, what they've done is they've said, unless you have some juicy tea to spill on the royal family, or you get divorced and want to give us a documentary, probably not. But if they have something juicy to say about the royal family, like the king sent me a potted plant, which turned out to be poison ivy, or that my fox just didn't hold me the way I wanted to, and so we've had to consciously uncouple, then maybe. That's basically it. And I think, honestly, it's the best of both worlds, because Netflix have been very clever in the sense that, okay, these people are a household name. They're annoying, but they're a household name. If they do anything interesting, we have to be the first of the queue, because it would be blockbuster. Everyone would be covering it. It'd be a huge media storm. But at the moment, given their track record, absolutely not. We're not committing £5 to this.
And it's helpful for them as well in the way that it takes some of the pressure off. It was a big experiment to see, after their working royal life, if they were going to be able to make it as these big hotshot TV producers. As we've said, there's some hit and misses there, and certainly a lot of misses.
A hit and all misses.
Truly, yeah. But the reality is, this new deal, look, they can't deliver on the money. I think we said it was 70 or 80 million pounds, this other deal.
I think that's if they hit all the kind of performance targets. And also, this new deal, I don't think, when we say there's not a penny being committed more, I kid you not. This sort of second season of Meghan with Love.
With Love Meghan.
Yeah, whatever. With Love in a Kitchen, that's not hers. in a place we don't know with people she also doesn't know. Anyway, they'd already filmed it. They filmed the first and second season. This Christmas special, I'm sure they're wrapping it up now as well.
Meet Me at the Lake, which I'm not sure where that's at. That's the
the
romantic...
rights, the rights that they bought again.
It's been about
we
2
don't
years
know.
since we broke the news that they had signed that deal, and now they've trailed it and said, oh yeah, that's still in production. We'll get onto the exact shows in a minute. We'll go through in detail and talk about how exciting or how not exciting we think they're going to be. But the interesting thing, I think, about the statement or about the press release, which was very well written, I think, to kind of disguise some of the holes that we're picking up, is that it was all about Meghan. It was Meghan's statement, and it's Meghan that they appear to have actually be backing, because they back her As Ever brand, don't they? Netflix are fully behind her As Ever brand. And we know there's a second series and holiday series for With Love, Meghan. Where's Harry in this? Is we going to see him?
It was so interesting because, as you say, that statement was written, it's about the pair of them and their production company, but it was clearly written by Meghan, as she says, my husband in it. That was an interesting choice. It's clearly a deliberate choice, but it comes at such, as I say, an interesting time because Prince Harry's dealing with the dramatic fallout of the Sentebale charity. That's all happening on this side, and we're not really sure what his future looks like. And the statement, as you say, is all about Meghan. Now, we've spoken, to people on Harry's side of it who say that he's very much involved and he will be involved into the future, but I don't really know what that looks like because at the moment it really is just sort of Meghan's side of the Netflix deal.
Harry is in the attic. He's a hostage, and thankfully he chewed through his leash just in time to make an appearance in the season 2 trailer, but he is nowhere to be seen. Yes, obviously he's dealing with the fallout from his charity and trying to find his own thing. I do think the Ugandan orphans thing was probably his idea. But the man is lost. I mean, he's really trying to find his feet. Everything he has a kind of the brown Midas touch, which I'm sure the viewers can infer what I mean by that. And really this creative side of this endeavor has really been Meghan's push. Now, in terms of the directing and, this film rights that they have and all of that, I'm very curious to see that because actually in her professional career as an actress, she didn't really have many directing credits. She was very much kind of in the background, kind of a B-list sort of presence in Hollywood, if you can call it that. So I actually don't know what her talents are when it comes to actually being behind the camera and directing and making sure that something has cinematic value that we would expect. So I'm actually quite interested to see that.
And oh, sorry. I was just going to say it's a bit of a missed opportunity for Harry to change the narrative a little bit as well. I think it's disappointing that he's not more front and centre in this statement, only because this year has been quite dramatic for him in terms of negative press. He had the court battle and then the BBC interview and then, of course, the Sentebale stuff that we've just mentioned. It would have been a good opportunity for him to sort of draw that line in the sand about what he's doing work-wise into the future with something positive. So I think he probably could have been in that a bit more. Yeah,
well, if you're sitting down with Netflix, or if you're in some kind of TV meeting and you look at the results, you know that the 6-part documentary that exploded. That's their most success. The Harry and Meghan one, that exploded. That was their best. I think Netflix's best ever documentary series. With Love, Meghan is getting a lot of coverage. People write about it. People are talking about it, despite the reviews being terrible. Harry's were pretty dreadful. Polo was awful. Invictus was awful. They must be looking at Harry and thinking, well, you're not actually providing any great content, whereas Meghan possibly is.
If I was a Netflix executive and I was negotiating this new non-deal with Harry and Meghan, I'd probably want to throw my shoe at Harry. Because at least, Meghan is entertaining in the sense that she's, so vacuous, it's almost, you marvel at it. But Harry is not a creative, and he's never had anything in this industry. And I think because he's come from a world where everyone fawns at everything that he does because he's Prince Harry, he just suggested ideas like, oh yes, I like to ride on a horse and kick a ball, and all of these things that really just didn't connect. And so they sunk all of that money into Harry and Meghan, but really they should have sunk it into that kind of the professional entertainer that is Meghan, even though she's not entertaining the way that she thinks she is. But Harry just there's just nothing to him in terms of entertainment value. And I think this is probably why Netflix are like, yeah, let's deal with the wife.
I feel they're buying Meghan in many ways because she is the actress and, they can get a lot of coverage on her, and they're kind of just holding on to Harry. So, one day the king will die. One day Prince William will become king.
Exactly.
And they're just holding on to Harry as the spare, as he often is in these situations, alongside Meghan, so one day they might be able to use him for something particularly useful. But this 6-part documentary that we watched, was it 2022?
Yeah.
Again, I've got in trouble the other week, so I've admitted I've rewatched it again. It is fascinating to rewatch it with the eyes and the brain that we have now. They're not going to do another one. That's what they're saying at the moment. There isn't going to be another Harry and Meghan. There isn't going to be another 3-4 years down the line, this is our life in Los Angeles.
What would they talk about?
Is that a good move or not?
But what would they talk about? I mean, the whole reason. I mean, look, Harry and Meghan, the docuseries was interesting because of the timing. You know, this really dramatic exit from the royal family and like finding freedom and like sort of this hostage-like crisis of them breaking free. There was a storyline there naturally built into it. A few years down the line, a few whingy comments, lost court cases. You know, if the parents are not speaking to them, where is the entertainment value there? I mean, if there was still some substance or demand for that, then was it With Love? I keep forgetting.
Yeah,
With
I mixed the two of them up.
Yeah, With Love Meghan would have done a lot better because there would have been genuine interest in her. There's really not much to them to actually generate that kind of interest.
Well, let's go through some of the shows that they have announced as part of this deal. It's a pay-per-show deal, so they're obviously paying for these shows. You know, Sussexes spend a lot of money on security. They've got an expensive lifestyle out there, so they've got money from Netflix for these shows that they're apparently going to go ahead. The holiday special, With Love Meghan, it will come out in December.
Yeah,
it's going to clash with the Princess of Wales's filming of a Christmas Carol concert. I mean, are we excited about a holiday special of Meghan in America?
I think interest in this will be very much related to how season 2 goes. We know that everyone was talking about season 1, loving it or hating it. A lot of people hate watching it. The critics were absolutely brutal about season 1.
Torture, wasn't it? Like,
it was. Look, it was a bit of a slog getting through it. I'll definitely say that. Season 2 doesn't have that sort of intrigue of, you know, what's it going to be. So we need to see how that looks at the other side. If by some, you know, big turnaround, people are obsessed with it, I think that will impact how many people watch the holiday special. But I don't see that that's going to have any sort of bearing on the Princess of Wales's Christmas concert, because that is obviously wildly popular and people watch it every single year.
But it's going to the holiday special is going to turn up what we've seen, you know, to 11 is I suppose the phrase on the volume. I fear it's going to be so over the top. It's going to be Thanksgiving is around that time as well. Will that be around the same time? Thanksgiving and Christmas. They call it a holiday special.
Yeah, I can see Meghan kind of redoing herself as in like the celebrity you love to hate, and not in the sense that she hasn't received a lot of negative press, but I think she's going to lean into that kind of very vacuous, almost irritating, like so plastic character, but in a way that's like it's still getting your attention. Like you still want to watch because you can't believe like there's like nothing in my head. And I actually I think that's clever. That's what Paris Hilton did. So like you know, back in the mid-2000s when she's like that's hot and like this ditzy blonde character, but it was marketing genius because she knew exactly what she was doing. And I'm kind of rooting for her. I'm like, lean into the vacuousness. You have that going for you.
The thing that will be
not in a rude way.
The thing that will be interesting is that season 2 was already filmed when season 1 came out. So when all these brutal reviews happened, you know, she couldn't really, you presume she couldn't do a lot to change what season 2 was going to look like. But if the holiday special was still to be filmed, I wonder if she'll change it up at all for that to reflect.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah.
It could be. We could see a different Meghan. Who knows?
She might have
maybe
be dancing with like someone dressed as a Christmas
She'll have the opportunity to, I suppose, reflect a little bit about what people were saying about that first season.
Yet another different Meghan.
I was going to say that. Yet another. We may see another rebrand.
No, the other one, Esther, you touched on it a minute ago. It's called Masaka Kids: A Rhythm Within. It's in Uganda, I think. It's a short film, so we don't know how long or you know what the ins and outs are. We know Harry's been in Africa recently.
Yeah.
We don't know if Harry and Meghan are going to feature in this one. I have asked, and we were told you'll have to wait and see. I don't like surprises. I'd like to know if Harry or Meghan are in it. Does this sound like something that's going to earn them a lot of money?
Oh no, but I don't think they're trying to earn money. I really think they have this messianic complex where they think like, you know, putting out this content, even if it doesn't necessarily generate the kind of views, it's in the repertoire of the do-gooders. I just think, you know, having grown up in Ghana and having seen like kind of these UNICEF ads of like, you know, starving, emaciated African children with like flies around their faces or the camera zooming in being like, you know, give to us and stuff like that. And knowing kind of the background that Harry comes from, I really hope this isn't that. Like, I don't mind if it's not entertaining or anything like that, but I don't want it to veer into like the outdated and outright disrespectful.
It can look into kind of white saviour complex.
Yeah, exactly. And then not in a way that, you know, I'm disparaging the their will to try and do good. But I think they have to be very conscious of that. And I think with the reason why I'm saying this is because I think the Sentebale charity and his approach to it is quite telling. He didn't go to sub-Saharan Africa for 5 years until he was invited by Sophie Chandoka, who he basically had that falling out with. And I think that's quite telling, because if you have this charity and it's your flagship charity and you're saying how much good you're doing, I think it's quite telling when you don't actually even visit the region and you basically let your minions on the ground handle it. And then when things are not going your way, you're so affronted by it. I just think, well, you weren't even doing the real work. Like, were you actually invested in this? And so for me, that's always left a bad taste in my mouth, because we always see it with celebrities that kind of put their names to initiatives and then just kind of have a hands-off approach. And I'm like, you're no longer a prince, mate, in the way that you were. You actually have to do the work.
It's interesting timing, I think, coming soon after Sentebale. We'll get on to the Sentebale latest a little bit later in the show. But the other one is, so I wrote the story 2 years ago that the Sussexes had bought the rights to a book called Meet Me at the Lake. It was very popular 2 summers ago. It was a big deal. It's taken 2 years now until they've actually said, oh yeah, we are in active production. This is going to be, the first time that they've adapted a book into a Netflix series. We need to know who's acting in it, who's starring in it. I can't imagine Meghan and Harry are going to be acting in it. They're going to need to get some big names.
There has been.
Could you imagine Harry?
That would be an interesting career redirection. Maybe that's the next thing. Who knows? There's been. We've lost Esther.
We've lost Esther on the idea of Meghan and Harry acting.
It would just be, honestly.
He's had secret aspirations like Prince Edward, maybe. Maybe that was there. Anyway, so look, I think that it's the thing about this story and this book is it was a wildly popular book, and it was quite a big deal when that story broke that they would be producing it. Shockingly little information has been released. So even though they're saying it's in active development, I still find it odd that we don't know more about it at this point. So I'm sort of not really holding my breath for it to be released. But
no, I've waited too long to find out details.
Yeah.
I mean, Hollywood films get shelved all the time until the time is right. And so this is not surprising. And maybe Netflix are the one holding it up. Maybe everything is good to go. Or maybe we know that Meghan likes to be quite meticulous. This is what I was saying before. I would be really interested to see her kind of directing chops, if this is actually something she's going to be behind the camera for, because it is going to be interesting. She has been not acting for a while now, for quite some time. And you kind of get a bit rusty, and she's been trying all her hands at all these business ventures. So I'd be curious to see what she actually thinks and the audience would want to see now from her, as ever, like sort of with love. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep asking you, with the love Meghan, clearly had time before the camera should be ending soon.
Well, it's been full steam ahead on With Love Meghan. So possibly the reason that we don't know more about it, I suppose, is that maybe because Netflix is obviously in partnership with As Ever as well. This is like a large project, and with season 2 coming and this holiday special, maybe the plan was simply that they're going to throw everything at that and then focus on this fictional work after. Also, as we've talked about, they've had a lot of misses in the sort of non-fiction space. So maybe this will be the area that they're better at. She's got the Suits background. I don't know. Again, it's a big question mark, but we just know absolutely nothing about it.
Just touching on this side of the Atlantic for a while. I was at St James's Palace a couple of weeks ago, and Idris Elba, the superstar, was there, and he's filming a Netflix documentary about the King's Foundation with King Charles. So we will possibly, at some stage next year when it's released, maybe have a clash between a Sussex production on Netflix and something featuring the King on Netflix. We're going to have a ratings
more interesting. Didn't Idris Elba DJ at their wedding? At
Harry and Meghan, yes.
And I'm quite surprised he's not featured in the second season of With Love, sorry, I keep saying As Ever, With Love Meghan, because Claire Smith is in it, who I love. And by the way, I highly recommend her restaurant, Core in London. It takes ages to get a booking, but anyway. But so she was in it, and Jay Shetty and his wife, and a few other, like Chrissy Teigen, who again, they've resurrected her from the graves of Hollywood.
And Tan France from Queer Eyes on there as well.
Exactly. So I'm surprised that Idris, who would have been a really good fit for this, because at the very least he would have been entertaining, wasn't interested or maybe tapped on the shoulder to film the second season with him.
Well, it's funny you mentioned about the wedding. I mean, there are no guests on. I mean, we've got 8 episodes this second series. I think we had a similar 8 episodes in the first series. You've got more than 16 guests. None of them were at Meghan's wedding. If they're all good friends of Meghan, as we are told we see on the screen that they're very close and they're very friendly, no one from the wedding to Harry, when she got married to Harry, have been invited to appear on her show.
Well,
you surprised?
the makeup artist who was her best friend, who did her makeup at her wedding, who was in the first season, she doesn't know where he lives or what he's allergic to, or that he was even there. And then he took some cake home. I mean, it was the funniest interaction of all. She was like, "Really? You were there?" Like it was selective amnesia. So I feel like she didn't really connect with the people that she invited. So what's the point in bringing them onto the show? Could it be a hit or miss?
With the guests, I would have thought the Netflix crossover, you know, Suits is still a huge hit on Netflix. I'm currently rewatching it. Really is a great show. Sorry. But she had, you know, many of the cast members were at the wedding, and Abigail Spencer was on season 1. But that sort of feels like a missed opportunity to have, you know, to bring in some of the cast that were guests at the wedding that obviously either were or are friends with Meghan and Harry now. To have them on this Netflix series would have made sense to me as well. In terms of Idris Elba teaming up with the King, it's quite a nice one because it's so personal to him. They're speaking about what was then the Prince's Trust and how it helped him in his early career and for him to get to where he is today, which is obviously a hugely successful actor. So I can see why he's sided with the King on that project. But I love that Netflix has gone from having The Crown as their big jewel in the crown, I'm so sorry, to having just this suite of royals on their roster. So they've really stayed in that space.
I don't think Meghan actually has any contact with her cast members from Suits, because I remember one of the cast members said she changed her number and kind of just went completely.
But they were at the wedding, to Matt's point. You know, they were all, most of them were at the wedding.
There were loads of people at the wedding that were just embellishment. I mean, she had one or two members of her family, I think her mum and a cousin. And then everyone else was just all these
Clooney, Amal Clooney,
these busybodies that wanted to kind of hang around Windsor to say that they were at a royal wedding. They were not anyone that's actually in her ecosystem.
While we're talking about the guests, and we'll move on to the trailer in a minute, but while we're talking about the guests that are appearing on this show, one of them is Jose Andreas, who has worked with Harry and Meghan in the past. They've linked up with his kitchen charity that he does, his celebrity chef in America. He's actually on Prince William's Earthshot Prize Council.
Okay. I don't know. You know, so to be honest, and maybe this is because I don't like to give credit lightly. I don't know how much thought goes into this. I don't know how much they think of like the overlap between what the royals are doing. I think they kind of just think it's our thing because you have to be quite cerebral about it. You have to follow what the royal family is doing to the T, find people that are available and kind of match up your schedules. I just don't think Harry and Meghan are that clever to do it like that.
There's only a small pool, you think?
No, I really do. I don't think the kind of thought that you would need to go into matching up your schedules or having a potential clash so that people think, oh, you're doing this at the same time as the royal family. I just don't think they do that.
Okay, well, let's have a quick chat about the trailer. We've touched on it earlier. It was released this week. It's the 8 shows are coming out at the end of the month. And did you notice anything different in this trailer from the earlier episodes or the earlier trailers from earlier this year?
I found it interesting. As soon as I finished watching it, I actually immediately took to social media to see if other people had agreed. But I felt like the tone was quite different in terms of Meghan's demeanour than season 1. One of the criticisms we had was watching it was that guests would turn up. There'd be this formula of guests turning up, telling her that she was wonderful. She'd, you know, graciously accept the praise. And it was a little bit jarring to watch at the beginning of every single episode. Now, this may happen again because the show has already been filmed and had been filmed prior to the feedback on season 1. But I thought in this trailer there seemed to be, I'll use the word humble. It seemed to be a more humble Meghan in terms of, you know, there's that big exotic, there's this big kitchen appliance and the chef or whoever's with her says, every kitchen should have one of these. And she's like, really? And even that alone is sort of a little insight into a bit more relatability. And I wonder if that trailer was cut, you know, to show a montage of maybe those little moments of relatability in reaction to how people responded to season 1. I don't know, but I certainly felt like it was I felt like it was a bit of a different Meghan than what we'd seen in season 1. But we'll have to see how the episodes play out.
Well, yeah, they may have listened, or they may, you know, it makes sense for them to listen, but we still have the Meghan, her turn of phrase, certain words which I think rub people up the wrong way. And
Word salads.
Her word salads, as some people call them. She said, I love the idea of spending time together and finding new ways to show people you care. And there are easy ways to show up lovingly. What does all that mean?
Yeah,
I don't think I want someone at my door showing up lovingly. It feels a bit creepy.
You know, this is why I want like an Osborne style sort of series with Harry and Meghan. Like everything that I know about Harry and Meghan has been against my will, if I'm honest. Because sometimes I think, like, I go to Tesco and I'm like, oh, things are really expensive. And I look at my bank account, I'm like, oh, I'm really poor. And all of these things. But like, I cover Harry and Meghan, one, because I work in this industry, but two, you can't escape them. Like, Netflix has signed this huge deal and they were all the rage. So I'm like, okay, I've accepted my fate. If I'm going to watch Harry and Meghan, and if they're going to be within the royal family ecosystem doing whatever they're doing for Montecito, I would like them to at least be entertaining. I do agree with you. I think in the trailer, she seemed a bit warmer. I think that's the vibe. She's definitely warmer. Her smile was less robotic. Maybe, I don't know, the Botox sets or whatever. But she seemed a bit more human, which I appreciated. Like, either that or Harry is just like so underwhelming. And we've been catfished by the royal family for decades to think that this was an interesting, fun guy.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Harry briefly, because I've been away on holiday for 2 weeks and I have to admit I haven't been properly following what's happened with Sentebale. I know there's been a charity commission ruling and Harry will no longer get back his charity. And there's discussions coming from the Sussexes saying, well, he may well go up and set up a new charity. Because someone fill me in, what's happening with Harry and Sentebale? It all sounds ugly and what's happening?
Ugly is the right word. There was the charity watchdog released its findings recently, and basically it gave everyone a rap on the wrist saying this shouldn't have been played out so publicly. But there weren't investigations into individual bullying. They said that there was a perception of ill treatment that may have impacted people's time working in the charity. Basically, as you say, it's just been a very ugly public mess, and it is sad because, you know, on all sides, I don't think anyone's come out of this particularly well, but, from a lot of reports, Harry's completely devastated. This is the charity he set up more than, it's about 20 years ago, in honour of his late mother, and it clearly meant a lot to him. But, now he's stepped back, and what he's going to do next is the big question. It seems from his camp that he's keeping all his options on the table. I do wonder if a part of that is him wondering what happens to Sentebale without him and Prince their involvement? Does funding drop so dramatically that perhaps Sophie Chandolka, the chair, has to step back, and then there's an opportunity for them to step back in? Maybe that's why he won't establish a charity. It does seem like he's considering his options. I suppose it would make sense if there is absolutely no way back for him into Sentebale in the future, that he may set up something in the region that does similar work. That seems to be his passion. But all in all, it's been a very ugly chapter, and just seems to have left everyone looking and feeling pretty bad.
Yeah, I think a complete rebrand is in order. I think Sophie is probably going to go down that route. And to be honest, in her defense, she seems quite passionate about the charity. And I think the things that she revealed about Harry and the fact that, funding dropped off a cliff anyway because of Megxit, I don't think their presence, or his presence certainly, would be very much missed. I think what's going to happen is she's probably going to use this press, as negative as it is, to kind of still keep going and saying, listen, the focus is on the children and the beneficiaries of this charity. And, good on her, because I do think she's very passionate about it. And in terms of Harry finding something else to do, yeah, I think this has been a bit of a shock. What basically the Charity Commission said, you've been naughty, sort yourselves out. And I think that's what Harry didn't want that. He wanted a complete vindication. And this is, again, why I say this man lives in a completely different bubble, because he actually wanted the Charity Commission to do things that was outside of their remit. He thinks you can just take everything to court and have an adjudicator, and he's so right. Like, it's kind of his approach with all the court cases.
He did the similar with his security court case.
Exactly. Just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because I'm right and I'm going to have my day in court. And I don't think he really understands a world where he doesn't always get his way. And so, yeah, he's probably going to go off and do something else. I really don't think the whole Netflix showbiz thing is his shtick. He's definitely not going to be featured in any film acting, although that would be entertaining. But I do feel sorry for him in a way, because I think he's just been completely unmoored by this whole thing. The whole Sentebale thing, the whole leaving the royal family, finding his feet, having Netflix say go and sit on a horse and kick some balls around. It's been unmooring.
Well, he's probably been massively distracted by leaving the royal family and his whole move to the US and everything that's been going on with his Netflix deal and writing a book. Has he ignored the charity work that he does do good? He has done good charity work across the world, but particularly in Africa. He could actually do good things if he concentrate a little bit more, and if he was to set up a new charity, as he may well do.
I think it's definitely a possibility. I think it's also been really clear, and I believe it was mentioned in the Vanity Fair profile perhaps earlier this year, it does seem to be the thing that he actually does want to do. Unfortunately, doesn't make it doesn't cover costs of their household. But working in this charity sector, and particularly in the areas that he's really passionate about, I do think that is just what he wants to do, which is why this has left him so bereft. But yes, there are Netflix shows to deliver, so he'll have to turn his focus to that now for a bit.
You mentioned about the funding earlier, saying that there was since Megxit they were struggling for funding. What I did read, and if I believe this to be true, I think it was in the US press, that the Meghan superfans known as the Sussex Squad, I'm sure they're avid viewers of this show, they previously funded Sentebale, as a tribute to Harry and in memory of his mother Diana. They would have big fundraisers. I think last year it was about £47,000 a year, and so since Harry has been, as they feel, forced out, they're not going to give any money to Sentebale. That doesn't sound fair or the right gracious thing to do, does it?
I mean, it's a bit. Who cares? They only gave about 47 grand a year. That's someone's salary. I mean, that could easily be replaced. I think the press alone around this sort of whole fallout, you can have people saying, actually, I still think they do good work. I don't really care about the kind of brouhaha between the powers that be within the charity. And you can make it up quite easily. I do agree with the Charity Commission statement in the sense that, like, you have to think about who's been impacted by this the most, and it's been the children. And Harry, with Harry's statement, he was like, yes, that's what I was trying to point out. That's why I'm the best person for this cause. Well, you didn't go in 5 years, mate. So how much do you actually care about this charity and the children if you were so hands-off and you were happy to let the little people on the ground, 500 staff members, I don't think you can even name even 10% of them, do all the work for so long. So, I wouldn't fixate on the kind of temporary loss of this money.
And let's not forget, we had a few scandals about Africa Parks as well,
exactly.
which is Harry's connected to as well. That's had a lot of coverage recently as well. I just feel he needs to kind of, forget the TV stuff, again. Go and concentrate on the good stuff that you used to do. But, he's busy, and Meghan's probably in his ear telling him he needs to provide content for Netflix. Right, from one troublesome Duke to another, the Duke of York. So have you read my story? Prince Andrew, he's got the hump about a speed bump. And I kind of...
okay, yes, okay, yeah. I was like, what story? What exactly? Where are we going here? Okay,
no one likes a speed hump, okay? But so Prince Andrew, they've installed a series of speed humps across Windsor Great Park. It's a private park. Me and you, we can't drive around there unless we're invited guests. So Andrew, I've seen him driving around. He often looks a bit like Toad of Toad Hall. He's whizzing around. in his Range Rover, buzzing past photographers who are waiting for him outside. They've installed these speed humps, and he was out on his horse, literally his high horse, the other day, and he peered down at one of the workmen and said, "What the F are you doing now?" He's got the hump about speed humps. Are you with Andrew? Do you like speed humps?
I'm never with Andrew, but particularly here. Okay, first of all, don't speak to people that are just doing their job like that. It's upsetting. Immediately, no matter who you are, I hate that. Secondly, if I'm going to be a bit cynical about it, if you're Andrew and you have the reputation that you have, oh, God, man, help yourself.
Yeah.
Help yourself. Be nice to people at the very least at this point, really. That's all you've got. As soon as I read this, I thought it's just... He has so much form in this area. There's been so many stories like this where he's yelled at staff for really ridiculously tiny things and made people feel... I think there was one about a gardener a couple of years ago who was then moved on because he was so horrible to them. Things like this, that really upsets me when people are just doing their job and going about it. Also, amazing reference with Toad of Toad Hall. I'm still giggling. But as soon as I read this, I thought, of course, Prince Andrew has such form in this area and it's so gross. I really hate when people are treated badly for doing their job. Yeah.
Esther, what would you do if you were going about your job and Prince Andrew said to you, "What the F are you doing now?"
Come down from your horse. Let's have a chat. Prince Andrew just sucks. He just sucks because he every single person that I've met, from people in the RAF to the Defence Forces more broadly, to service stuff, everyone that I've met that has come into contact with Prince Andrew says he's arrogant and he's rude and he's entitled. And the Epstein stuff aside, which still makes me so angry, why hasn't he conditioned his brain to understand that you should just be nice because that's what decent people do. But also, you're a royal, and any bad press will follow you like flies on rotting fruit. If you've seen, I just don't understand his complete lack of self-control and composure. You've seen someone doing something that you don't like. Why is your immediate reaction to just assume that this is some random person from down the road trying to dig up a hole in your property? Why don't you just say, "Oh, what's going on? What's happening?" And I completely agree with you. He has such form for this, but I just don't understand why, because it's always blown back on him. I mean, I was like, let's get him a one-bedroom flat in Goa and just exile him from the country because he's such bad news. But it embeds in people's minds that the royals are these entitled, really snobby people, and that unless they have the massage of kind of the firm PR spin on them, they're actually really horrible people. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think they do really good work. They're basically a walking history lesson. And you have a few bad apples every single time. And this season happens to be Prince Andrew and his shenanigans. This is completely unacceptable.
It's just worth saying that while Andrew is probably will get away with, saying that he's guilty of being a bit pompous, arrogant, and coming out with, comments against, as you point out, the gardener, and he shouted at a maid for not pulling the curtains. He's never been convicted or found guilty of anything connected to Epstein, and as always,
that's a very low bar. That's an extremely low bar.
Yeah.
Like the bar is in hell at that point. Oh yes, I wasn't a convicted paedophile. Congratulations.
Yeah. Working royals. Now it's summer, so we don't see much of the working royals at the moment. I think the King's up in Scotland. I think we saw him at church, drive to church the other day on his own. I think Camilla's joining in. They'll be moving into Balmoral soon. Do we miss them? I mean, Sophie was out this week. I was on a job with the Duchess of Edinburgh, and she was meeting a VJ Day veteran. And it was a really lovely chat. They went to his care home. They had a very nice little conversation, a cup of tea, shared memories. She's taking a front seat. We know that they're trying to get her to do more important jobs. We'll see the King and the Queen out on Friday. We won't see William and Catherine, by the way. They're not joining the VJ Day commemorations on Friday. But is it good to see Sophie? Do we miss at this time of the year seeing the King?
Sophie. I think I will say that when you said, do you miss them? It does feel like such a long stretch. I totally believe that they are entitled to having holidays, but just especially in our jobs, does feel like a long time we don't see them. It does go quiet and gets a little bit boring. But obviously Harry and Meghan are over there keeping things interesting. And Prince Andrew.
Well, Harry and Meghan have timed it very well, haven't they, by doing this dump of information? Yes. Because none of the royals are all on holiday.
Well, maximum exposure. But in terms of Sophie, yes, we've said this over and over again, and I think royal watchers have also been calling for this for years. We love seeing Sophie out and about. She's so capable. She's so great when she's interacting with the public. She had a fun little chat with that veteran earlier in the week. But I think that I mean, you were there. You saw her firsthand. You see how she operates. I mean, what do you think of her performance? I
think she's lovely. I think she should do more. I think it's a shame that job was so short. I joined her in Bosnia a couple of weeks ago, and she was absolutely wonderful with people. She's down to earth. I think she can handle any job that comes to her. I think you should use her more. But as I say, the King and Queen on Friday. He's interrupting his holiday because he's still having his cancer treatment. Remember, he has 3 weeks on, 1 week off. So they try to factor his calendar to make sure that he does get a lot of rest time. But he's interrupting his holiday to come down to the National Arboretum in Staffordshire.
And William and Catherine as well are on their holiday, but after, especially when she had to pull out of Royal Ascot this year, and after the few comments she's made about, coming back to work and how it's quite difficult behind the scenes, I think no one is begrudging her having that holiday, but we do miss them when they're away.
Yeah.
I do. I will, especially Catherine at royal events. You just want to see her step out and bring the glamour.
They'll come back in September with a huge bang, guarantee. It's going to be really busy with William and Catherine. Right, guys, we've just got time for our quickfire questions, all right? So take a deep breath. Right, this is a long one for me to read, actually. I say quickfire questions, but this might take me a while to read.
Okay.
Right, off the back of the £300 King Charles teddy bear that was launched this week, what royal merch would you be happy to part with some big bucks on?
Oh, I know. I think it was one of Princess Diana's dresses sold for like £500,000 a couple of years back. She's the one royal, like, if I had that sort of money, let's be very clear.
Just make that clear now.
I think that's clear. So Princess Diana's accessories or a dress or something really iconic like the revenge dress or something like that, absolutely. If I had it, I would pay.
Yeah, like if I was 5'10", leggy blonde, the revenge dress. But actually, I agree with you. Anything Princess Diana, but I'm like, I want something a bit more risque. I want like a thong or something. Just be like,
I don't know if they're selling that.
No, I know, but like, everyone knows Princess Diana as this really classy, elegant lady. So I'd want something like no one knows that I have, that I'm just like, sometimes when I'm like, I want to be like, I have her.
I also randomly, on the complete.
I'm learning a lot about both of you two on this.
I know, I feel like the prim one, but on the flip side of that, and it's much more G-rated and boring actually. But from Charles and Diana's wedding, I randomly have an original like little metal garbage bin.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes.
Someone gave it to
Yeah.
me years ago before I ever became a royal reporter. I suppose they just sensed that I was going to be sniffing about royal news for years. But this was back, when I was a teenager, someone gave it to me. But it's an original. It's got like dents in it and everything. But it's from the time that they got married. Very random.
A garbage bin, though.
A little garbage bin, little metal garbage bin with their faces on it. Yeah, it is. I suppose there could be a metaphor in there. There could
The
be
marriage was trashed.
Yeah, I've held on to it. Maybe it'll be worth a lot of money one day.
We should do a special on royal merchandise and
bring it in my
souvenirs. Yeah. As Donald Trump is set to meet Putin, which member of the royal family do you believe would be the best around a negotiating table?
Okay, so it's between two. William, because I actually think he has his wits about him, and I think he's a lot cleverer than people give him credit for. He's grown up seeing all this chaos, and I think he's learned many lessons from it. And I think also Queen Camilla, because,
I think I had the same answer with Camilla in terms of look at what she's got done. The day of her coronation, the day of their coronation, I should say. The reputational, full circle.
Yeah, I know.
Incredible. Imagining 20 or 30 years ago, incredible to
That's
imagine.
impressive.
Then the people do like her.
Yeah.
A lot of people like her. But the other one I would say is Princess Anne. Can you imagine? Just no BS, as we say in Australia. She would sit at that table and she'd be like, right, lads, let's get this done. And she would, I believe.
And Putin would be like, I want Ukraine. No, you can't have that. And then she'd just sit calmly.
All good answers,
Okay.
but Prince Philip is surely the right answer.
Well, he's not alive.
No,
Can I not have Prince Philip?
he could possibly get the negotiation done, but he also may offend everyone in the room.
I think he'd start World War III. I think actually it would have the opposite effect. I think he'd be
roll
like,
the dice.
we're all going to war, lads.
He would join. He would sign up.
I know. He'd be on a horse with a baton.
And you mentioned Princess Anne, so final question. What would you buy Princess Anne for her 75th birthday, which is this Friday?
I think a bottle of whiskey. I think apparently she likes whiskey, but I think she's such a hard worker that I think on her birthday she should sit back and enjoy a glass.
I think a plough horse.
A what?
A plough horse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a symbolic representation of how hard she works. So just buy a plough horse. Yeah.
Nice.
I'd say a holiday. Can I have that?
Well, like a Jet 2 holiday. Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday.
On the beach somewhere, if she would ever do it. Do you know actually, before we wrap up, do you know what she does for her summer holiday?
What does she?
Does she take holidays?
In the summer, she sails around Scotland,
Okay.
and she's visiting every lighthouse. So she's got a few more to tick off. She is obsessed with lighthouses, and she sails around looking for lighthouses.
Incredibly
I know.
random. With a million guesses, I probably wouldn't have gotten
Yeah,
that.
she adores lighthouses.
It's really cute. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Good old Anne.
Interesting.
Good old Anne.
Yeah, I love that. That's quirky.
Thanks, guys. I'll leave you that little nugget of information at the end of what a wonderful show. So thanks very much for coming on. We did a lot. Thank you. Right, that's all we have time for on this week's Royal Exclusive. Thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments as we do read them, and don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. We'll see you next week.